So Webflow is personally my favorite way to make a website. It's an incredible combination of the ease of drag and drop editors combined with the power and flexibility of actually coding a website. So no matter who you are, this gives you the power to make a very impressive and very custom website with beautiful animations and exact customization that you want that you otherwise can't get from a lot of typical website builders. So maybe you saw an ad for Webflow and you realized how powerful it is, or maybe you watched some guy make a 1 hour long video where he remade like the Apple iPhone website. So no matter what introduced you to Webflow, I'm here to show you exactly how to build this website right here. We're going to rebuild the Rolex website using Webflow, and it doesn't matter if you're a total beginner and you know nothing about websites, you know nothing about coding. The beauty is you don't need to know any of that. I'm going to show you all of that in this video, and it's really quite simple to use. You just have to know where the tools are, what they mean, and once you understand it, by the end of this video, you'll be making any website you want in a very short amount of time. Webflow is a really powerful tool, and I recommend, just to kind of get some inspiration and some other ideas, check out this site right here. Now, I'll link this down below, but you can see some examples of websites that were made with Webflow just to show you the incredible power that this platform has. So not only is it going to allow you to structure the website as you might want, but you can add a lot of really cool animations and interactions that when somebody goes to your website, just makes it stand out a little bit more. So let's check out any one of these. So like check this one out, for example. If we click on it, you can see this website has a lot of interactions. First of all, when it loads, these stickers appear, and as you scroll down, things move in. They have animations here. Things expand as you scroll down. Like there's a lot of really cool interactions on this website that are not easy to do on something like Wix or Squarespace or the other options out there. So I'm going to open a new tab, and we're going to go to santrelmedia.com/webflow. That is our affiliate link, but it gives you a discount on Webflow. So we're going to go there, and it costs absolutely nothing to you. You actually save money using this. And so we're going to go and click on Start Building. So now we're going to have to set up our account. I'm going to type in an email and then make a password, and I'm going to click Create an Account. Now we just have to add some basic information, our name. We can choose what we're building it for. Maybe I'm a small business. And it's going to kind of bring you through a couple basic questions. It doesn't really matter for this example since I am going to be remaking the Rolex website. So any one of these, obviously choose whichever one makes the most sense for you. But I'm going to say a business site right now, or actually e-commerce store. Now I'm going to say, no, I don't want to hire somebody. And I'm going to deselect this right here by I don't want to subscribe to their email list. And that'll bring us to the very beginning here. So let's click on exit, and I'm going to definitely exit. That's just a quick little tutorial, but you won't need that. I'm going to show you everything in this video. And now we can choose a template if we wanted to start for this website. But because we're building this one right here, I want to actually start from a blank website. So I'm going to select blank. We will name this one. We're going to call this Mike's Practice Site. We'll say create site. And now here we are on the canvas. Now, before we go any further in this video, we need to get a domain. So if we go up to publish, we can click on add a custom domain. So you can see we have 4 options here. First of all, definitely do not go with the starter one unless you're just making this for like a school project, in which case it's great, go for it. But first of all, like you won't get it your own domain, which is probably the most important one in my opinion, but there's a lot of other limitations as well. So that kind of leaves us with these other 3 options here. I'm going to go with the middle one, the most popular one in this video, but you can scroll down and see an entire chart of what the differences are. So more form submissions, more content editors, but read through them, see whichever one makes the most sense for you. And so now if we click on upgrade to CMS, so I'm just going to go with yearly, enter my card number, and that kicks us back to this page right here. So if we click on publishing, this will allow us to get our own domain. So we're going to add a custom domain. Click on the blue button, says add a custom domain. We have 4 options on how to do that. You could quick connect a domain. So if you buy it somewhere else, and I recommend shopping around, you might find a better price on say Namecheap, for example, or something like that. Or if you want to go the easy route, just buy a new domain directly through Webflow. So let's just say I want this to be Mike Rolex tutorial. I'll say search, and you can see it's $1 per year for the first year, kind of a nice little bonus there, and then $17 per year after that. You can find a way to get them for maybe $12 per year or $15 per year from other sites, but again, it does take a little bit more effort. So I'm just going to buy it directly through here. I'm going to get the first one. We can say continue. definitely keep the free private registration selected. So I'll continue again, and we can continue to check out. And then once you purchase the domain, you should automatically be redirected back to Webflow, and it should be connected. So that's a really easy way to set it up. Like I said, I usually end up doing that just because it's easier to do. You don't have to do that, and you definitely could save some money shopping around on your own. Now, of course, it's not going to actually appear until you verify your domain. So go to your email, verify the domain, and then it'll publish that. So let's go back to Webflow and continue editing our website. And now here we are on the canvas. Now this looks very intimidating, but let me explain how this actually works. So the way any website works, let's go back to this Rolex site, for example. If we just right click and click on inspect, you see basically every website you've ever been on uses a very simple structure. Now, I used to call this like a section layout, but somebody else explained this very well as a box layout. So a website is just boxes inside of boxes. So when you're inspecting, you can see we have the entire thing is one big box. And then within that box, you've got other boxes. So we have the header is one entire box, and this is going to be a box. We can go and inspect this right here, and you'll see the button is going to be, you can see it's a box with other boxes inside that box. So I think that'll make a little bit more sense as we start to build this website. To remake this Rolex website, the first thing we have is a block on the very top that's going to be our header. So on Webflow, we would be calling this our div block. So if we click on the plus icon, you'll see a lot of different elements we can add here. Div block, just a basic block. We're going to click and drag that over and drop it. Now that is on the very top. That is that's our header right there. Now, the way Webflow works is on the left side, this is where all of your stuff you can add is going to be. And on the right side, for everything you click on, you can change the style, the settings, and the interactions for that. So the style is going to be the color, the spacing, the layout, where things are oriented. The settings are going to be a little bit more advanced. We'll talk about that later in the video. And interactions will be different animations and different things that make it move around or fade or things like that as somebody uses your website. So mostly we're going to be using style to build the beginning of this website. And so for this, we want to change the background of that. We want it to be a dark green to match the other website. So if we scroll down, you'll see backgrounds. We can click on the little transparent thing there. We're going to make this not transparent. We want this fully opaque, and we want it to be a dark green. And it looks like that's approximately the right color. So we're going to stick with that one right there. And so once you have it, you can just click off anywhere on the screen. So now we have that. Now below this, we want our video to appear. So if we go back and click on the plus icon, the next block, we could add another div block if you wanted to, or really the easiest way to do this is to scroll down and find background video. So background video is down here in advanced. We can click and drag that over and drop it right here. Now, you'll see whenever you drag something over, the Navigator appears. And the Navigator is essentially like a hierarchy, like a tree of how our website is built. And so as we go, you'll see different things will be listed right here. So as we add elements to this div block, they're going to show up as like a next indent underneath the first div block, which by the way, we can also name everything. You'll see that this starts to get very confusing if we have a lot of div blocks. So let's just click on the first one, and over on the right side, we want to name that. So let's click right here, and we're going to call this style. We're just going to click on that, and we're going to call this header. So now that is named as header, and anything that uses the header style is going to be using exactly that. So let me just show you an example right now. If I go and add another div block below here, let's click and drag it down here, and then we select a class, and we just click on header, it's going to match the first one. So that can save you a lot of time. If you have repeating blocks, that's a really easy way to do that. But I'm going to click on this and now hit delete. We don't actually want that for this. So now the background video. Let's click on that, and we're going to call this one background video. Now on the top left, when you click on this, it's all outlined in blue. You should see background video and a little gear icon. We're going to click on that, and we're going to upload a video. I'm going to select this video right here. And we do want it to loop, we want it to autoplay, and we don't want to include a play pause button. That's not actually going to be necessary, so let's deselect that right there. Now, when you first upload, it might take a minute to transcode the video. All right, so now it's done transcoding. Let's click on the header, and we want to add some of those other elements in there. If we click on the plus icon on the left side, we can scroll down. We have a lot of different options for what kind of structure we could use here, but I think probably the easiest one would actually be a grid. So if we click and drag grid up, we can drop that right there. And remember what I was saying before about how on the left side, it kind of shows up in like a tree layout. So now grid is underneath header. So that makes sense. But we want to customize this grid. Going back to the Rolex site, you can see we have something on the left, something in the middle, and something on the right side. So we really just want 3 columns. So if we right click on that, we can delete the row. And then up here, let's close out of that. Let's click plus so we have a 3rd row here. And now we have 3 rows up in our header. So let's click on the plus. In the first one, we're going to add a div block in there. And in that block, we are going to have, now let's click plus, and in that block, we're going to have an icon. So let's go and find image. We're going to add an image in there. So we'll add image. And then next to that image, we want to have, let's click plus, and we're just going to have text next to that. So some text. So for the image, we can click on the gear icon. We can choose an image. And so I actually uploaded. So for the image, I'm going to choose a menu icon. Obviously, it's absolutely gigantic. You can click and drag it down. That's an easy way to kind of set that up. But we'll talk about how to change the size in a minute as well. Now we're going to close out of that, and you'll notice the text is underneath that. We don't want the text to be underneath that, so we can change the layout of this. Instead of stacked, we can make it left to right. So let's click on the div block, and under layout, we can choose left, right. So now the text is to the right of that icon. And by the way, it's important that every time you add something, you go and name it. So let's click on the div block, and we're going to name this one menu-1. And now if you double click on that text, we can select all and just type in the word menu. Now we can make this center justified with it. Now let's keep this left justified, and we can make this centered vertically so it's aligned within that box very well. And if we scroll down, we should be able to change the color of this as well. So we can have some white text up there. There we go. If we click on color, we can make this white. I just want to make this pure white. So now that is white, and we can change the font as well. So it looks like actually that font's not too bad. It's pretty similar to what we actually do want. And about that size looks pretty decent as well. So now all we have to do is change the size of this icon here. So now let's click and drag this menu icon a little bit smaller. So about that size right there. And we'll make sure there's enough margin and padding around this in a second so that it's not a really thin little bar right there. So now in the middle, we have, I believe, the Rolex logo. So let's go and add, so plus icon. We're going to go down and find image, and we're going to click and drag image into this middle block right there. And again, we want this to be center justified, both vertically and horizontally. We can click on the image, click on the gear icon, choose an image, and this is going to be the Rolex logo. Now let's name that class. This is going to be Rolex logo. Now we can make the width, let's say maybe like 80 pixels. I think looks like approximately the right size. Now, since we have 3 images on the right side, 3 little icons there, I'm going to click and drag actually a grid this time, or this is going to be a column. So click and drag column over, drop that right there. And we want to have 3 columns here. So 3 columns. All right, so now that we have our 3 columns there, we want to add those 3 icons. So we're going to click on assets down here, a little shortcut. Instead of adding an image and then choosing the image, just click on assets. I already uploaded all of my assets. And we're going to go with the magnifying glass first. So we can click this. And as you start dragging it, instead of dragging it over here, I recommend it's just easier to use the tree on the left side. So we're going to hover on column 1 until it turns blue and then drop it. Now that's going to appear right there. We're going to resize these in a second. Now the next one is going to be the map. So we'll click the map, and as you start to drag it, you'll see it's red right there. It doesn't like where that is. We'll go down and hover over column 2 and then drop it. That's going to be in column 2 now. And then for column 3, we're going to go and put in that little heart icon. So we'll click and drag that down to column 3. And we'll drop it right there. So now we have our 3 icons. They're way too big, so you can click on any one of them. Just like we did before, we can go and change the width. Let's make each of them maybe like 50 pixels. Same thing with this one, can be about 50, and this one can also be 50. And now we can click on the columns icon here. We want these to all be arranged so they're centered vertically, just like that, and they're going to be centered horizontally, just like that. So that's looking pretty decent so far, but now let's go back to what I was saying about making this entire green space a little bit bigger. So if we click on grid right here, we want to have more space around this. So you have what's called margin and padding. Margin's on the outside of what you use, padding is on the inside. So we're going to add padding, and if you just click on this and start dragging it, you'll see how it adds space to the left side. So let's just say maybe we want 25 pixels there. We can type in 25 pixels there. Above it, we can add 25 pixels. And then maybe below another 25 pixels. So that's looking a little bit better. And now that you understand margin and padding, we can add that to other elements as well. So if we click on the word menu, we can add a little bit more margin or padding to the left side. So we want to add a little more space between that icon and the word menu. Maybe not quite 11 pixels, maybe like 7 would be fine. That looks a little bit better. And now we want to start adding the text to the middle of this. So remember, we have text right there, and we have the Learn More button, as well as that little arrow on the bottom. So we're going to click on the plus icon, and now we want to add a heading. So we're going to click and drag that heading to the middle of background video. It's going to be in the top left, and we're going to title this one Oyster Perpetual Explorer. We want to have this as one single element so that it's all registered by Google and it shows up in search as Oyster Perpetual Explorer instead of just Oyster Perpetual and then Explorer as another subject. You don't want that. You want it to all be one thing so Google can read it and know that that's one element that it's supposed to care about. But it does have different fonts here. We've got different styles. So Oyster Perpetual is all caps. It's a smaller font and just a different font as well. So we can go and first of all, let's change all of it to match the top one first. So we can highlight all of this. We're going to name a tag here. This is going to be title. This is going to be title. Let's call this main title. Call this main title. Hit enter. And now for this, we can scroll down and let's change the font. We could choose a font right here. Maybe Open Sans makes sense. We can choose it to be something a lot lighter. So maybe do like regular light. And if you click on more type options, we want this to be all caps. So let's click on all caps there. And so Oyster Perpetual, the font size is going to be a lot smaller, maybe like size 12. And of course, we want to reposition this now too. Let's actually add these in a div container. I think it's going to be a little easier. So if we go and add a div block right there, we can click and drop the main title in the div block. So now it's going to be within there. So if we just make this whole div block, let's change the layout on this. We want this to be centered in the middle right here. So now if we click on background video, we can choose the display is flex, and we want to make sure this is centered vertically and centered horizontally. So there we go. It's right in the middle there. It is tough to read this, and we'll talk about how we can make that more readable in just a second. But now let's make sure the word Explorer is actually that bigger font that we wanted. So if we highlight it, we can click on the paintbrush here, text span, and now this is actually going to be a totally different thing. So if we click on text span, now we can go and change a little bit more about this specifically. So we can go and change the font of this one. We can make this like 30. It's going to be a lot bigger. Actually, let's make it like 50. This one is not going to be all caps, so we'll select all caps right there. We can keep the same font, but let's actually change it to something a little more bold, maybe semi-bold. And we don't need that same spacing, so let's just go and delete that right there. So it's a default spacing. Now, if we click on main title, we don't necessarily need this to be side by side like that. So instead, we'd rather have it go top and bottom. Now, if we click on text span right here, we can change the display to this right here. So it goes top to bottom like that. Now, comparing this to the Rolex website, we're starting to get a lot closer right here. You can see we're getting there, but now we need that button below here. So for the button, if we click on the plus icon, we can scroll down to button and we can click and drag a button over and drop that within this div block right below. Now, by the way, I'm personally a big proponent of kind of learning through examples, as you've seen throughout this video, but a couple little housekeeping items that I recommend right now, just to kind of fill you in on some of the blanks here. We know on the left side, this is where you go to add elements. Below that, we have our pages. So as you have different pages on your website, you can switch between them. So if we want to go check out like the 404 page, you can go and start editing that. It looks like this. That's not a good looking page, so you're going to want to change things like that. Of course, an about me page, different pages, you can click on the pages thing and just toggle between what you're actually editing. Then the Navigator, like I've been showing you, is that kind of tree, super useful. I mostly use this when I'm designing a website. So that's the Navigator. Then going down these next three blocks, I'm not going to talk about them just yet. They're a little bit more complicated. You've got your components, you've got your variables and your style selection. We did talk about assets. That's where you can upload all of your photos and videos and everything you're going to put in the website. And then below, a couple more advanced things, but we do also have some critical things like e-commerce down here, as well as any other apps you might want to get. And of course, on the bottom, your settings, we'll talk about that a little bit later. But going across the top, this is really what I wanted to show you right now. So we've got different ways to view this website. Right now, this is on a desktop view, but if somebody's going to view it maybe on a mobile, like on a phone, but hold their phone sideways versus hold their phone vertically, you can check out what it would look like on different devices. And this is going to be really important. Then on the right side over here, this little play button, this allows you to preview the website. And so it'll show you just what it actually looks like if someone were to visit your website. And this is great because it shows me the video is actually not showing the full height of it. So we're going to resize the video right now, and then we can change the button. So let's toggle back by clicking the play button, and we're back in the editor. So I'm going to click on background. I'm going to go to size. I'm going to select, let's go with VH right now. We're going to make it 85, or 85 seems to fit well. And if I hit play, you'll see in the new tab here, that looks like that's the right size. That's what I wanted. So now let's format this button. If we click on button, we're going to name this button Explore button. We can change the size of it with the padding, as you can see right here. So if we want to make it like a little bit wider, we can make it like maybe 20 on either side, or maybe 40. Let's make it 30 actually. 30 is probably the right number. So we'll put 30 on either side. We want a little bit more margin above this. It's a little bit too close to that one. So we can go and make this, let's just add like 40 pixels of padding above it. So it spaces that a little bit better. And now if we go down to color, we can change this. It looks like it's probably some type of grayish, maybe like a darker gray. And we can make this pretty transparent. So maybe around like alpha can be like 50, maybe 50% transparent. And we can add a radius on here. So the square doesn't really look good. So we can click and drag the radius. So we can choose the radius. It looks like somewhere around 20 pixels is going to look the best. Kind of a nice pill shape on that button, a lot like what we actually see here. And the button text, if we double click, we can actually change this. So we're going to highlight all of this and we're going to say learn more. Now let's click on the little play icon to toggle preview, and aesthetically, we're pretty much there. Like this is basically the same website as we're seeing right here. Not a whole lot of difference there, but we do actually need to make things actually work, right? Like this button doesn't do anything right now. Menu doesn't do anything. This stuff isn't quite working just yet. So let's start off with the button. If we wanted to learn more, we can click on the button, click on the gear icon, and choose where it's actually linking to. It could link to a URL. So if I wanted to link to like my YouTube channel, I could just type in, open in a new tab. Let's open in a new tab, and we're going to say just link to Santrel Media on YouTube. That's one option there. Another option would be to link to another page on this site. So if you wanted to link to, we don't have any other pages right now, but maybe like a shopping page or any other thing like that. We could also link to a section of a page. We could link to an email. We could link to a phone. So that'd be like a contact us option there. But for the simplicity right here, I'm just going to link over to my YouTube channel right now. And we're going to say, we're going to add the open a new tab. And now we can close out of that. Now our button works. So now these icons on the top, we want them to actually link to different things like in a search or a map or a like page, maybe social media. Let's just say we want the logo to link to the home page. It's very common practice on most websites. The way to do this is actually to click on plus, go down to link block. We'll click and drag link block. I'm going to drag this right above the Rolex logo. Now we can click and drag the Rolex logo into that link block. So let's click and drag it until it's in the link block right there. And now, of course, we do have to do a quick little reformatting on that link block so that it is centered. So we'll just click on center justified, vertically centered. But the link block now, we can very easily click on the little gear icon and choose what we're linking to. So let's just make this link to the home page. It's going to link to a home page, and it's going to not open a new tab. We're ready to go. That's linking to this right here. You could do the same thing with all of these other ones as well. So maybe the like icon, the little heart icon, let's just say we want this to link to our social media. We can click on the plus icon, click and drag link block over to column 3. We'll just drop it in column 3. And now image 3, let's click and drag that into the link block. And the link block, we can click on our settings here. So let's just say it's going to link to my Instagram. So we'll close out of that. Now let's go and preview the website and click on play. And these links should be working now. So if I click on the heart icon, sure enough, it opens up to my Instagram. If we click on learn more, it opens up to the YouTube channel. These buttons are now working just fine. All right, so we've kind of got the backbone of this website down, but let's talk about the fun part, the really interesting part, and why I like using Webflow, and that is interactions. So you have a lot of flexibility with interactions. You can do element trigger, or you can do page trigger. So page trigger is going to be when somebody loads the page. You can have things fade in and move and do different things. Element trigger is going to be a little bit more based on when somebody interacts with something. So if they hover or they move their mouse, they click on things, it'll act a little bit differently there. So I'm going to go with page trigger. And so let's just click on maybe, for example, this entire block in the middle. Maybe we want that to like fade in when somebody comes to the site. And so we could click on, once you have that, let's click on plus. So let's click on plus. Let's say page load. And all of that looks good. When the page is loaded, that's what I want. I want to start an animation either when the page starts loading or when it finishes loading. Doesn't really matter. Let's just say when it finishes loading. Click on the little gear icon. And now make sure you select the block you want. We're going to click on plus. And this is going to be, let's just say we fade in. So we're going to go down to opacity. So originally, let's just say 0%, so totally transparent. And this is going to be our initial state. Select initial state there. And then we can duplicate this. So we'll just right click, duplicate that. And now the second one is going to be, let's say 100%. So we'll bring this up to 100%. So let's play that, see what it looks like. So when somebody goes there, see how that fades in right there? I think that looks pretty cool. And you can do that with multiple elements, and you can have different things fading at different times. Very, very cool, very powerful. And so just to show you, like, this is going to be a bad example here, but let's just say maybe we want like the logo on the top to fade in as well. Again, not a great example, but if you had more elements, I think you'd see where you'd want to use this. But because I don't have more elements, let's just use the logo on the top. So I'm going to click on the plus icon. This is going to be opacity based on that logo on the top. We will set the initial state to be totally transparent. So you'll see initial state, they're both transparent up there. And then let's duplicate this. So duplicate this. And let's just say we want it to be after, or let's say before this fades in, we want this to fade in. So the opacity here goes up to 100%. And now if we play, you'll see this will fade in and then the button will fade in. So let's say play. You'll see that fades in and then this fades in. So that could be kind of sleek. It could be a cool way to have your website load. And obviously don't get carried away with this. Don't make it like a PowerPoint from 3rd grade when you have everything moving around, but some subtle things could look really good. So now let's save that, click on publish, and we're going to publish our website to the selected domains. Then if we go to our website in a new tab, I'm just going to paste it right there. You'll see, boom, the fade in there, the fade in down here. You can choose this pace of those fade ins as well. And that's our website. I mean, honestly, I think that looks pretty good. It's super easy to make just to this point right here. And there's so much flexibility with what you can do using Webflow. So like I said, Webflow is my personal favorite way to make a website. I hope you enjoyed the video, found it fun and interesting. Hopefully you learned something as well. If you watched the video this long, please subscribe to the channel. I'm Michael Bryan with Santrel Media, and I'll see you in the next video.